Welcome to this video on Module 6 Interaction Styles and Communication. Today we'll see Windows, its characteristics, components, presentation styles, types, management, different operations possible. So Windows for Web is basically not given in the syllabus, but we'll try to see that. So what is a window? A window is an area of the screen that contains a particular view of some area of the computer. So it is one definition we can say, or it is that view of some portion of a person's dialogue with the computer. That's a functional definition. So different characteristics are as below. It will have a name or title that will identify it. It will have size in height, and that will be described in height and width. Basically the basic unit will be pixels possibly. It will have a state which can be accessible or active or not accessible. Either it can be accessible or not accessible. Accessible is also called as active. Next is visibility. The portion that can be seen, whether it is completely seen or partially seen, etc. A location, so which is relative to the display boundary, where whether it is available in center or towards left of screen, etc. Next is presentation, that is its arrangement in relation to other windows. So we'll see in details. They're called as tiled, overlapping, and cascading. We'll also see some management capabilities, which are how the windows can be manipulated, different ways, methods. Next is highlight. So the part which is selected, the part of that window which is selected. And ultimately the function or the basic task or application to which it is dedicated, what operation that is going to perform. Now the applications or usefulness of Windows, why it is used. First is presentation of different levels of information. Now the information can be presented in an increasing level of details. So for example, there may be a table of content which is given first. So if you click on one part of that or one item in that particular table, so corresponding part of that document may be opened in some adjoining windows. So you can see at the same time, so the bird's view of that document as well as one particular part. So different levels of information. Presentation of multiple kinds of information. So here you can see, imagine one order processing system wherein a customer's account number may be selected in one particular window, and based on that the information pertaining to the customer details, for example his name, address, etc., can be presented in one other window, some other window. The order details, for example the date, the quantity, etc., can be presented in some other window. So presentation of multiple kinds of information can be done with that. Next is sequential presentation of levels or kinds of information. So basically information can be presented in different uh, steps, you can say. Either that can be presented or that can even be collected. Imagine a content management system wherein a student is to register, wherein the username and password of the students may be collected in the first step. Then the personal details of the students may be collected in the next step, and third step may be collecting the academic details of that student. So different windows, step by step they will come and collect those information details. access to different sources of information. Now, uh, the information may be available in the same file, maybe in different files, or maybe on some other computer connected uh, through a network, maybe, or maybe one database table, for example. So different sources can be there. So we can have different windows pertaining to those different sources, combining multiple sources of information. As just we have seen here in different sources, so all the information from all those sources can be combined together to prepare a report kind of thing, which represents that information in one particular place, but that is basically collected from different sources. So either that can be the thing that you are having a particular location wherein that information is presented in one thing. So different places are there from which that information is taken. Now, performing more than one task, it can perform more than one task as well. It basically allows the user to perform more than one task in the case that while one lengthy operation is going on, you can open one more window to see or to perform some other task. For example, while you're copying a big file to some other location, you can at the background open a new window to rename some other files, etc. Reminding is a feature wherein user may be reminded of some events. For example, in the case of calendar notifications, that can be given. Important meeting reminder can be presented in one window. So next is monitoring. In this case, while we are feeding data in one window, how that data affects some other data that can be seen in some other window. So simultaneously, two or more windows are present, and we are monitoring how the data input affects some other data. Monitoring can be done. So we can simultaneously monitor while we are performing something. We can monitor the stock market, weather, etc. in some other windows. The last is multiple representations of the same task. Now here you might have seen that in the case of spreadsheets, if the tabular data is fed, you can also see the chart based on that data. So a tabular data is presented in one window, as well as the graphical or a statistical graphic representing the same data is presented in some other window. That may be one scenario. So constraints in window system design we'll see now. So there are some constraints so far as the historical situations are considered. So in the beginning, while the GUI systems were there, but the emphasis was there on more on functionality, less on the usability. So this is the very reason there were few design guidelines for how Windows systems can be designed. And that's how, as there were no such proper guidelines available, every designer was attempting to have his or her own design. Many alternatives were possible. So there was no such standardization of the GUI design process or the window design, you can say. So less standardization was there. As new characteristics of the historical considerations, standardization was seen as a threat. Why? Because that may be hampering our creativity, the designer may think. If you simply adopt a standard, we will not be allowed to modulate our designs, they were thinking. So no creativity means no money as well. Second view was that we are not having independence with those standardization. We cannot adopt our design changes, you can say. One more was legal actions. Some companies were there who were having legal actions on other developers who used to follow the designs of the previous company, the first company. So there were some issues for implementing the standardization so far as the historical situation was concerned. As a result, every developer was designing based on his or her own wish, you can say. One more constraint in Windows system design is the hardware limitation. The first concern is that the screens in the old days, basically they were small, and to see contents, the whole contents, you have to always go with the full screen. You have to maximize a window to the full screen, effectively diminishing the purpose of having different windows. If at all you have to simply go to full screen, there is no point using different windows. So smaller screen is one concern. Next, and very important, is the limited CPU speed and memory. The processing power as well as the amount of memory will not allow different animations, for example, or other effects to be implemented in the Windows. There are human limitations as well, which were more prominent in the old days. I'll give you my example as well. So there is a complexity. You have to learn the Windows system. You have to practice that system, Windows system, basically, in addition to learning the system operation. So when I started learning Fox Pro, I had to go with a course which was span for, let us say, complete 1 year. For first 6 months, they taught me Windows, the graphical user interface containing the Microsoft Office as well, and then they taught me for next 6 months Fox Pro. So the essence is that, let alone learning the system operations, you have to first learn how Windows behave, how to operate that. So let me remind you, Windows here is not related to any operating system as Microsoft Windows. It is the general rectangular area, as we have seen in the first definition, that is available in any operating system with graphical user interface. So this term window is not to be confused with Microsoft Windows. Window is a general term. So there are other limitations. For example, every window will be having a border that is going to consume very important screen space. Next, if a file is big, we'll have to have excessive scrolling to see all the contents. So now, what is the direction where to go with that those many constraints? So even though Windows are having those many constraints, their benefits will outperform those constraints, and will have to use those windows as which is more evident in the different GUI systems that we can see. So every graphical user interface is going to have a window, and that's how we'll have to use that, bearing in mind their constraints as well. So now we'll see the components of a window. It's a generic window where we'll try to see some components which are available here. First is the frame. It's a rather a border which contains a window. So that delimits all the components of a window. Very important is the title bar, which is shown in a blue shade here, blue color, which is containing categorically three parts. The first and important is the title of that window. Which application or which file the application is working on, that may be contained, that may be presented here. That will be the title of that window. The title will identify either the application or sometimes the files which are open, or the basically one file which is open with that particular application. So at the right of that title bar, there'll be some control buttons like close, maximize and restore, and that may also taken to be maximize and minimize if it is not restore, and then it is minimize. So title bar icon is next, which is basically available at the left most part of the title bar, which basically represents the application icon, or if the application allows editing, loading, saving files, that will represent the file type. So that's a title bar icon. Now window sizing buttons. This is what we have just seen. So these are the three buttons which are generically available for any such window, where the first is to close the window, which is available at the rightmost side, having a cross or X, you can see that represents closing the window. So the second button from right is used to maximize or to restore the window. So when it is simply open first time, it will be, if it is spanning the whole screen area, it is said to be maximized. So it can then be minimized, or it can also be taken to some shorter span, we can say. So this is the minimize button. This is the restore button, that may also change to maximize button. If it is minimized, that can be once again click to make it maximized. So it's a toggle, we can say. So next is what's this button, that is very specific to sometimes Microsoft Windows applications, which is having an icon like this question mark, which is available whenever it is available. So based on the context of that particular window, when you click that, whenever it is available, based on the context, it will give you the help regarding that particular window or that particular operation. Next is menu bar. So menu bar is as seen here, which is familiar to most of the Windows users or any Geo application users. So these are the category, groups of operations which are categorized into different sets, like file operations, then edit, then view, etc., etc. So file operation will be having sub menus or sub options for different file operations, like creating a new file, opening a file, closing a file, saving that file, etc. So in this way, different menus can be present in the menu bar. Next, very important, and menu bar is mostly present at the just below the title bar. So next is status bar. So status bar, as the name indicates, it will indicate the status of the file or the operation which is going on in the window. As can be seen here, different statistical information, for example, the page number, the section number, how many total pages are there, and out of which page is being displayed, the line number, column number, etc. is maybe presented there. In the case of one image editing applications like Photoshop, there may be the X and Y coordinates of the current mouse pointer may be presented in real time. So that's a status bar, which is mostly available at the bottom of the window. So there are scroll bars which are mostly of of two types. One is vertical scroll bar, which is there to scroll the page in vertical direction, to up or down, obviously. So it will be having one rectangular area as can be shown here, one container which is also having one rectangle inside that box kind of thing, which is basically the handle to scroll that page. It is also having two arrows to be clicked with mouse. So step by step you can go towards top of document or towards the left, toward the down the bottom of the document. Similarly, there can be a horizontal scroll bar as well, that basically allows the user to scroll the document towards left or right. So next is split box or split bar. So if available, that is available just above the arrow of the vertical scroll bar, or towards the left arrow, or just left to the left pointing arrow of the horizontal scroll bar. The purpose of split box is to split the window in different areas, you can say. So for example, one portion of the document can be held constant while the other sections can be moved. So one window will be divided into different sections with the split box. That window will be split into many different sections. Next is the toolbar. So different frequently required operations will be presented as part of some icons, as can be seen here. For example, this icon represents opening a new file, creating a new file. This is this particular this one is a toolbar that has got the icons for operations for new opening and creating a new file, opening a new file, saving that file. So in this way, there are different toolbars which can be seen here. Different sections are there, differentiated with the horizontal lines, which appear to be grooved here. So this one is there, which is called as the formatting toolbar, which has got options for changing the font size, the text can be made bold, etc. So this is called as the formatting toolbar. So different types of toolbars are available, and they have got their handles here with which they can be dragged and resized like that. Next is the command area. So command area, if it is available, it's a text box like thing which will allow the user to type in different commands, which one example is that in the case of Windows, at the bottom left you have got one area wherein you can simply type the command, start, run, then you get the command area there, or that can well be available with the bottom line. Next important is the size grip, which is largely seen in Microsoft Windows, where it is available. Whenever it is available at the bottom right. There are three lines available. Just dragging that portion will allow you to change the size of the window. So that's why it is called as the size grip. Ultimately, there is one work area. So work area is the area or part of the window where actually the user operates, on which the user operates with that object in the file. That may be a text, that may be one image, that may be one sound file, whatever it is. So that is what is called as the work area. The white portion which is shown here, where we can, in the case of Microsoft Word, we can type here different characters, and that is what is called as the work area. So this particular image is taken from this web link, courtesy of that website. Now different window presentation styles are available, as you have seen previously. The first is tiled windows. Let me show you how they look like first. So different windows may be present like this. They appear to be same as tiles. So that's why it is called as tiled window. So the advantages, when different windows are arranged in a tiled fashion, they are easier for newbies, the novice or inexperienced people to learn different things. So they can open different one application window and one help window and operate on the application. They also yield better user performance for tasks where the data requires little window manipulation to complete the task. For example, in the case of help window, you need to only see the contents of that help. You don't need to perform many things in that. So you can open one help window here and the application window may be present here. For example, if you're having one spreadsheet document available, one Word document available, and one notebook app, for example, kind of thing available here. So only the contents, if the contents are to be seen and entered in some other application, they can be easily seen and entered. But imagine a complex image manipulation application like Photoshop. If you are using multiple windows for one application like Word, one application like Photoshop here in smaller part, that becomes not that easy for to operate on that image in that small area. So similarly, the disadvantages are there. Only a limited number can be displayed in the screen area available. Depending on the size of the monitor, uh, only a limited number of windows can be opened. So as we go on opening windows, when a number of windows available increase, each window will get smaller and smaller, and that becomes difficult to operate on the window contents. As windows are open and closed, existing window may change in size and that can be annoying. So these are some of the disadvantages. So here I have shown only two windows in tile fashion. There can be multiple windows like in that way. So next is overlapping windows. As can be seen here, there are multiple applications open in multiple windows. One is browser, which is hidden by this LibreOffice Calc application window. Still there is one writer window which is just below that browser, and behind that the LibreOffice Impress window, which is almost completely hidden by all the three remaining windows. So they are overlapping. So they appear to be in 3D. So they resemble the desktop that is familiar to the user. You are putting different notebooks one top of other. So that is how. Windows can maintain here larger sizes because they need not be tiled in the screen size. They can be having larger sizes. For example, here each of the window can be maximized, and that can be present one on other. So they can have larger sizes, and they can have consistent sizes as well as position. So that is the advantage. A disadvantage, they are more complex than tiled windows because they are not always seen all. More control functions are required, as well as greater user attention and manipulation is required. For example, you need to change from one window to other. You need to press some keyboard combination like Alt Tab. Always, you need to know that. So that combination has to be remembered. That has to be performed effectively to change to other window. So a window can be lost behind other windows, and the user may think that it does not exist. That may happen. So this is one example of overlapping windows. The third presentation style is cascading windows, which is shown here. This is a special type of overlapping window itself, wherein all windows are seen. So no window is ever completely hidden. And that is why bringing any window to the top of the screen, I mean the front of the screen, is very easy. You can simply click on that and that becomes in the front available. Simplicity in visual presentation and cleanness is seen, which is in contrast to the first example of overlapping window, wherein it was not clear whether those many windows are available. Only there may be a windows present just behind all the windows, those can be seen. Now, which presentation style to be used for what purpose? In the case of tiled windows, they are suitable for single task activities where the task is not that complex, data that needs to be seen simultaneously. So, different data elements are available at the same time to the user, then it becomes easy for the user to see all the contents or think on those data. Task requiring little window manipulation, as we have seen previously, if the window needs complex operations, it becomes difficult to operate in small area. So if the tasks are not that demanding, not that complex, then only tiled windows can be used. They are also good for novice or inexperienced user, where the users are not having practice or knowledge for how to change between different open windows. Next, overlapping windows, they are suitable for switching between tasks, where each of the tasks may be having a need for greater amount of window manipulation. One is image manipulation, some other may be audio processing, some other may be video processing, and all these three windows or applications are open in three different windows, which you cannot simply unmaximize. They all need to be maximized, and they can be made to be overlapped one on top of the other, so that we can simply switch as per the need and get the work done. Obviously, they are useful for expert or experienced users. They are also suitable for conditions where the display contents are unpredictable. We don't know what will happen. So everything needs to be maximized. So now we'll come to the types of windows. The first type is primary window. So as we have seen previously, this is what is called as one example of a primary window. Now, where they are used, they basically represent an independent function or application. So there will be one primary window for one application. You open that application, and the first window that appears, that may be the primary window for that application. They present constantly used window components and controls, as we have seen previously. So the controls like close, restore, or maximize, minimize, these are some of the controls which are available all the time while the window is available. So they are called as, for example, the menu bar items or the controls used by dependent windows, as we have just seen, the close button, etc. So menu bar items which are used frequently or which are used by most or all primary or secondary windows. So this is one control. Next, controls which used by dependent windows. We'll see the secondary windows next, where the controls which operate on those windows will also be present on the primary windows. So presenting information that is continually updated, for example, the date and time, the cursor coordinates, for example, that we have seen in the status bar, that is also seen all the time, that is needed to be shown. Providing context for dependent windows. So the boundary of that primary window will provide the context for the dependent, which primary window the secondary window belongs to. For what operation the secondary window is open, that will be the context for the dependent windows. Now, there are some functions or situations for which we should not be using primary windows. Do not use primary window to divide an independent function into two or more primary windows. So, a function which is naturally one single function is not to be divided into two or more primary windows. It is to be taken into one single primary window. So, the next part is that we should not present unrelated functions in one primary window. If the operations are inherently two or more different operations, separate operations we can say, so they are not to be clubbed into one single primary window. The next type is secondary windows. So, the proper usage of secondary windows, where they are to be used properly. So, to perform subordinate, supplemental or ancillary actions, for example, extending the operations which is performed previously, the operations which are more complex in nature, or that may be related to objects in the primary window. So, that is one scenario. Or presenting frequently or occasionally used window components. So, that is one scenario in which secondary windows can be used. So, there are two categories. One is called as a dependent secondary window or the independent secondary window. In the case of dependent secondary window, it can only be displayed from a command on the interface of its primary window. It cannot be opened otherwise, whereas a independent secondary window can be opened independently of a primary window, which we have seen in the case of property sheet. So, rather that is to be seen, but one example is the property sheet, which is the example of a secondary window that simply represent the date and time properties in Microsoft Windows. So, that's a that is called as property sheet because it shows all the components of the date and time operation. We'll see in detail afterwards, but this is one example of the secondary window, which is an independent secondary window. There is no primary window for that. So, there are some important guidelines regarding the secondary windows. They should typically not appear as an entry on the taskbar. As you can see, whenever a secondary window is open, there is no such entry on the taskbar for the secondary window. The entries are only there for the primary windows. And that should not be larger than 263 by 263 dialog units. So, dialog units are not some pixels or points, etc. They are the device independent units which are defined by Microsoft Windows. Here it says that they should not be larger than the dimension of 263 into 263 and dialog units. Whatever screen size, depending on that, the dialog units will vary. So, there are types of secondary windows: dialog boxes, property sheets, property inspectors, message boxes, palette windows, and pop-up windows. One important segregation of secondary windows is whether the window is modal or modeless. So, what is modal? This is to be used when interaction with any other window must not be permitted when that window is open. So, whenever modal window is open, it will not allow interaction with any other window. They will remain displayed until the appropriate action is taken, after which that window will be removed. So, that will not allow interaction with any other window and will be simply displayed until that question is answered by the user or maybe that appropriate action is taken. So, they are basically used to request critical information or actions. For example, for presenting messages, receiving user input, or asking questions. So for messages, they are called as message box. For receiving user input, for example, enter the age, that may be user input, or asking questions, do you want to continue, yes or no. So sometimes called a question box. So this is to be used carefully because it constrains what the user can do. The modal box basically will not allow user to go anywhere other at other part of that application. That's why that is to be used carefully. That will constrain the user actions. The second part of the type is modeless secondary windows. So these are to be used when interaction with other windows must be permitted. For example, in the case of help, that help can be seen, as well as at the same time we can operate on the application objects in the application as well, or that operation must be repeated. For example, word search, we control F, we press control F to take up the dialog box, and after finding the first word we simply continue for finding the second word, and so on. Next is cascading secondary windows. Here the purpose is to provide advanced option at a lower level in a complex dialog. For example, you want to open a printer, or to add one printer. So there may be one add button which is having ellipsis like this, and whenever you click on that add button, that ellipsis says that it will now open one new window, which is the cascaded window. And the thing cascaded, basically this particular window is not exactly showing how the cascading secondary windows look like, where the button is present, that window will appear just besides that button. So guidelines, whenever such a cascading window is to be presented, we need to provide a command button leading to the next dialog box with a to a window indicator, that is the ellipsis that we have just seen. So just after the caption on the button, there will be 3 dots, which is called as the ellipsis. Now present the additional dialog box in cascaded form. So whatever form that is open has to be presented just besides that control, that may be a button or that may be a menu option. So provide no more than 2 cascades in a path to hide or to keep the complexity to a minimum. Do not cover previous critical information. So whenever I'm clicking on add and the window is being opened, that should not hide the add button. So for example, the title bar or the relevant displayed information, like on what button, on pressing what button the window is being open, or the previous important contents, they are not to be hidden by the display of that secondary window. If it is independent, close the secondary window from which it was opened. Next is unfolding secondary windows. Here the purpose is to provide advanced options at the same level in a complex dialog. As we have seen previously, whenever we, in the case of cascading, the click on a button will open a fresh new window, whereas in the case of unfolding, the window will be open just maximizing the, when the corresponding control is clicked, for example this button, that will extend the existing window itself. It will not open a new window. So coming to the guidelines, we'll have to provide a command button with an expanding dialog symbol, like this 2 consecutive greater than symbol, as can be seen here. So expand to right or to downward. So whenever the button is available, the window has to expand at right side or to the bottom side. So next is dialog boxes. Here they are used for presenting brief messages, for requesting specific or transient actions, that actions which will not be there for lengthy durations, for performing actions which we are going to take a short time to complete, not frequently changed, etc. Guidelines. So the command buttons to include in these dialog boxes are OK, cancel, or others as required. So this is one example of a dialog box. So here there is one button which is open, which is based on the context of opening a file. So property sheets, as we have seen previously, the purpose is for presenting the complete set of properties for an object. The example which is shown here will collect and present all the properties of date and time zone as well as etc. So the guidelines pertaining these property sheets are categorized the group within property pages. For example, date and time is one section, where also for date there is one section, and for time there is an other section, etc. The tabbed property pages for grouping peer related property sets, as we have seen here. There is one tab for date and time and one for time zone. So the command buttons which can be there are OK, cancel, apply, reset, and others as necessary. For if the property sheet is going to have a single tab, now all the controls can be placed on the same sheet. If the property sheet is going to have two or more tabs like this, the controls are to be placed outside the tabbed pages. So these controls are outside these tabbed pages. Next are property inspectors, which is shown here. That will be an independent window, for example, that will accept fonts, font size, etc. This is used for displaying only the most common or frequently accessed object properties. You might have seen that whenever in the case of one image manipulation program like GIMP, you want to click on a text handle or change the properties of the text handle, you will get property inspectors like this. Now these are to be used when the changes are to be made dynamically. Next is message box, where they are used for displaying a message about a particular situation or a condition. The guidelines pertaining to message boxes are there are particular set of commands buttons to include OK, cancel, help, yes and no, stop, or buttons to correct the action that caused the message box to be displayed. For example, if you're having performing one erroneous action that caused the message box, so there has to be a button that will correct that action, particular action. Enable the title bar close box only if the message includes a cancel button. So if there are two buttons, one is OK and one is cancel, then only the close box has to appear. That will also mean to cancel that operation or message box. Designate the most frequent or least destructive option as the default command button. We'll see that with one example, and this is very important. So these are the different examples of message boxes. One is the progress of maybe updating links. There may be a progress for downloading a file, so there is only a stop button there along with that close button. Here there are two more message boxes. One is one warning, where it simply says one or more lines in your document are too long in one word edit, document editor. It says that do you want to switch to the landscape mode now, which is the most appropriate or expected action, and that's why the yes button is the default button, which is shown with those extra borders given to that. So that's an expected action. That's why this is that yes button is made the default one. Whereas in this case, where user is replacing maybe advertently or inadvertently one existing document, so the warning is given: replace existing copy of my favorite document. That file name is my favorite document, and the user maybe is overwriting that. So the that may be one erroneous action which should not be performed inadvertently, and that's why Here not yes but no is the action which is made the default one. So it is non-destructive action. So simply pressing the enter may otherwise replace that existing copy of that document. So whenever the messages are presented, so if it is one simple information that may have symbols, these are the Microsoft conventions, Microsoft Windows conventions, that message box may have, will have the icon like this. Whenever it is a warning, the corresponding icon will be present like which is present here, and whenever that message is critical, the icon will be like this. Next is palette windows. These are the modeless secondary windows where they are used to present a set of controls, as can be seen here in an image editing applications like GIMP or Photoshop. That palette will be present. They are distinguished by their visual appearance. A collection of images or colors or palettes or patterns will be there on those particular palettes. So here they are seen different tools available. The title bar of a palette window is shorter and includes only a close button, as can be seen here. And that window can be changed in size. This particular palette window can be changed in size. So design as resizable. That is a guideline. Alternatively, design as fixed in size. That can be made to be not changing the size, or can be made to be changing the size. Next is pop-up windows. They are to be used to present additional information when an abbreviated form is the main presentation. You're having one action which is presented in an abbreviated form, and the tooltip may be there, which is describing further what is given there. Textual label for graphical controls. So if you simply hover on those icons or graphical controls, it will elaborate what that operation is there. Context sensitive help or actions. When you right click on, for example, file explorer, you get the corresponding actions based on where you click. You click on the file, the corresponding actions like rename, delete, etc. will be available. If you click on the white space, the corresponding actions like creating a new folder will be available. That is what is called as context sensitive actions or context sensitive help. So guidelines. So present at front of screen, they should be presented. 1/4 to 1/3 window size they should acquire. There should not be any title bar or close button. If you can see in the palette, the title bar and close button is available, whereas in the pop-up window, nothing of that is available. Never display as unsolicited pop-up. Whenever it is not expected, that should not pop up. So window management, there are several schemes like single document interface, multiple document interface, workbooks, and projects. Will quickly go through them. The first is single document interface. In the case of any applications like Word, Microsoft Word, etc., you might have seen the single document interface. A single primary window is there with a set of secondary windows. The proper usage, where the object and window have simple one-to-one relationship. One document will be opened in that application. So for every object, for example, that file, one window will open. Where the object's primary presentation or use is as a single unit, single document, single image, etc. To support alternate views with a control that allows the view to be changed. So there may be different views of that file that can be allowed. To support simultaneous views by splitting the window into 2 panes or more panes. The advantages, it's a most common usage. Window manipulation is easier and less confusing because there's only a single document interface is present, and it's a data centered approach. We concentrate on the object or the data. The disadvantage being information is displayed or edited in separate windows. There is one application window and for every document there will be separate primary window. Next is the multiple document interface, which is a technique for managing a set of windows where documents are open into windows, which contains a single primary window called the parent and set of related document or child windows, each also basically containing a primary window, where each of the child window is constrained to appear only within the parent window. The child window cannot grow beyond the boundaries of the parent window. The child windows share the parent window's operational elements. For example, the close, minimize, maximize buttons will be available. Whenever they are placed, they will apply to both of them. The parent window's elements can be dynamically changed to reflect the requirements of the active child window. So this is very important. Next, how to apply, where to use this these particular multiple document interface, MDI it is called in short, to present multiple occurrences of an object. One single document is there which is to be shown in multiple fashion. There we can use this MDI to compare data within two or more windows. Now you have got two spreadsheets available where the data is to be compared. You can open those spreadsheets in different windows and compare the data to present multiple parts of an application. So the contrast between this multiple document interface and single document interface is that in the case of single document, there will be only one primary window with set of secondary windows. Here basically there will be multiple child windows available. That is the difference. So to the one more application is to present multiple parts of an application and best suited for viewing homogeneous object types, as I have just given the example of that spreadsheet where two spreadsheets can be opened in two different windows, child windows, and we can compare them. So advantages: the child windows share the parent windows interface components, the menus, toolbars, and the status bars, etc. They'll be sharing of the parent. That's why it becomes very space efficient interface. The space is saved here. Useful for managing a set of objects and different images, different spreadsheets can be available. It provides a grouping and focus for a set of activities within the larger environment of the desktop. Ultimately, though different objects are available, they are actually grouped into one particular interface. Now the disadvantages. This reinforces an application as the primary focus. We are always concentrating on one simple application at a time, with where the different child windows may be open. Containment for secondary windows within the child windows does not exist, obscuring the window relationship as possibly that may possibly create a confusion as well. So containment relation is not obvious. The child window may grow out of the parent window, and that may create a confusion. This very reason, because the parent window does not actually contain object, context cannot always be maintained. Which is that object, for what application we are using that, that may not be always guessable. The relationship between files and their windows is abstract. The file can be independently present. The file object can be present independently besides that application window. So that may make an MDI application more challenging for beginning users. New users may find that confusing. Confining child windows to the parent window can be inconvenient or inappropriate for some tasks. If the object is big and you need to confine that child window to the application window, which is already unmaximized, that may be challenging. So the nested nature of child windows may make it difficult for the user to distinguish child window in a parent window from a primary window that is peer with the parent window but is positioned on top. So that may be confusing whether it is the child window of the first application or a new parent window of some other application, that may not be clear. Next is workbooks. So very good example of the workbooks is the spreadsheet applications like Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets, you can see. So if you remember that, or you can imagine that this is the same thing here. A window or task management technique that consists of a set of views organized like a tabbed notebook. You might have seen the property sheets where different tabs were there. Here also there may be different tabs available. So it simply mimics a book or the notebook metaphor. Views of objects are presented as sections within the workbook's primary windows. There will be different sections available. Child windows do not exist. There will be one single window which will be having different sections. And each of the section will have a different view of the data. There can be essentially tabs present to navigate between these sections as you do in different sheets in a workbook in Microsoft Excel, or maybe Calc in LibreOffice, or maybe in Google Sheets as well. So optionally, its characteristics and behavior are similar to those of the multiple document interface with all the child windows maximized. So they are very similar to the MDI interface where all the child windows may be maximized. So it is similar in that context if that is maximized. So where to use that? To manage a set of views of an object. The object is same, but the views may be presented in different fashion. To optimize quick navigation of multiple views, changing the views has to be very quick. For content where the order of sections is significant, the first sheet, second sheet, third sheet, etc., that order is very significant. Advantages: it provides a grouping and focus for a set of activities within the larger environment of the desktop. The desktop is having all the sections grouped in a single window. Conserves screen real estate, as we can simply switch between different views with those tabs. We don't need to have multiple windows there open. So provides a greater simplicity of the single document window interface. A single document interface is presented in a simplified format here. As there is no need to have multiple child windows, we don't need to manage those child windows. Simply only one single window we are using. It preserves some management capabilities of the multiple document interface. So all the child windows share the controls of the main window. So the main disadvantage of this workbook presentation is that it cannot simply show all the views simultaneously. The last is projects, which is a technique that consists of a container kind of thing, where the a project window holding a set of objects, you can say. Each of the object which is held by that project window can be independently open in primary windows, which may be appearing to be a peer with the project window itself. Here the visual containment within the project window of the peer window is not necessary. The child window need not be contained in the project window. That can be independent primary. Each of the open peer window must possess its own menu bar and other interface elements. Something like you open one spreadsheet like Microsoft Excel file from after opening the Microsoft Excel application. The file will also have its own menu bar and other control elements. Each open peer window can have its own entry on the taskbar. You open new files, for every file there will be multiple entries on the taskbar. When a project window is closed, all the peer windows of the objects also close, and whenever that project window is open, the peer windows of the contained objects are restored to their previous positions. Peer windows of a project may be restored without the project window itself being restored, because there is no such containment relationship. That object itself can be a new primary window that can be open independent of the project window. So the proper usage is to manage a set of objects that do not necessarily need to be contained in the primary window, in the application or the project window. When child windows are not to be constrained, then we can use the project's window style. Advantages: the it provides a grouping and focus for a set of activities within the larger environment of the desktop, preserves some management capabilities of the MDI, and provides the greatest flexibility in the placement and arrangement of windows. The disadvantage: it increases complexity due to differentiating peer primary windows of the project from windows of the other applications. So there may be different applications open, and that's why the child or the object windows may be confused with the other application primary windows. So organizing window functions will be seen now. Support the most common task in the most efficient sequence of steps. For example, use primary windows to begin an interaction and provide a top level context for dependent windows. Where there is one hierarchical operation, the initial operation or the first operation can be presented with primary windows. And primary windows can be used to perform a major interaction. Whereas in the case of secondary windows, they will be used to extend the interaction, as we have seen there itself, or to obtain or display supplemental information related to the primary one. We need to use dialog boxes for infrequently used or needed information, or the information which is not needed but that can be nice to have. If we cannot use the proper organization, that may be because of emphasis is given on technical ease of implementation rather than the proper analysis of user task. How the user behaves in using that application, that may not be considered, while it is more concern how that application will be performed technically. So focus on applications, features, functions, or data types is given rather than considering the tasks, how the tasks are to be performed. Organization of the design team into different sections, like the team part of a team performing or managing the applications. For example, the design team will be divided into different sections, or different depending on the different modules, for example. And if they are not having inter-team communication, that also result into poor functional organization. Blindly mimicking the manual word and carrying over manual inefficiencies to the computer system. You are basically designing a system to automate, to perform that thing into a digital fashion using computers. So in the manual process, there may be some inefficiencies, or that may not be handled in the proper way. If you are simply blindly mimicking those operations, the inefficient ways or the windows pertaining to those operations may be used in the computer application as well. That may not be that cannot be called to be one efficient way of operating. So how many number of windows we should have? So the guideline is that minimize the number of windows needed to accomplish an objective. As little number, as minimum number of windows that we can have, that is good. Now sizing, provide the windows which are large enough to present all relevant and expected information for the task. Avoid hiding important information, avoid crowding or visual confusion, minimize the need for scrolling, but use less than full size of the screen. So the window should be that large. But if a window is too large, well, we should determine, is all the information is needed in the window? or is all the information is related to the task. Otherwise, make the window as small as possible. So the optimum window size is for tests about 12 lines, and for alphanumeric information, it is about 7 lines. So larger windows have got their advantages. They permit displaying of more information. They facilitate learning. So relationship amongst data and groupings will be obvious. Less window manipulation requirements exist because we don't need to scroll them, change their size, etc. Here, breadth is preferred to depth based on the menu research. So the windows, if it is wider, that is better. So more efficient data validation and data correction can be performed if the windows available are larger in size. Now disadvantages of larger windows. We need to perform longer pointer movements. More visual scanning is required to go to all the parts of the window. Windows are, if more number of windows are there and all of them are of larger size, obviously they'll be crowded. Other windows more easily obscure parts of the window. So if a window is of larger size and there are multiple open windows, they'll obscure the content of this window. It is not easy to hide unappropriate data when the window is large. So where to place the window on one opens or on one screen, you can say. We need to consider the use of the window, the overall display dimensions available to us, and the reason for why the window is available there. In general, position the window so it is entirely visible. If the window is being restored, if it was already minimized and that is being restored, place the window where it was there last. It last appeared. If the window is new, a fresh one, and a location has not yet been established, place it at the either at the point of the viewer's attention, usually the location of the pointer or cursor, or that may be in a position which is convenient to navigate to, so that it is not obscuring the important or related underlying window information. For multiple windows, give each additional window its own unique and discernible location that can be easily found out. For example, a cascading presentation is recommended here. In a multiple monitor configuration where there are multiple monitors available, display the secondary window on the same monitor as its primary window. In the same monitor where the primary window is available, the secondary window for that is to be shown. If none of the above location considerations apply, then we can horizontally center a secondary window within its primary window just below the title bar or menu bar and any docked toolbars. If the secondary window is to be shown in the primary window itself, that can be just below the title bar, menu bar, or if there is some docked toolbar, that can be that secondary window can be below that. If the user then moves that window, where to display? So display it at the new location the next time the user opens the window. So adjust it necessary to the current display configuration. So if the user has moved that window and that has to be next open there, so that has to be open at that new location where you need to adjust its display configuration. Lastly, do not let the user move a window to a position where it cannot be easily repositioned. That may be a constant required. There may be a constraint required so that user is not able to move that altogether to that location. So for dialog boxes, if the dialog box relates to the entire system, center it on the screen. Keep key information on underlying screen visible. If one dialog box calls another, make the new one movable whenever possible. Now the part will which is available or which is pertaining to web system. So browser, So it's a short part. We'll see quickly. So the browser components which are known to you, the back and forward button, the stop button, refresh button, home button that may be there, a search box will be available, or favorites icons and history button. So frames. A web page may be having frames, which are the different web screen panes that permit the displaying of multiple documents on a single page. These documents can be independently viewed, they can be scrolled independently, and can even updated. The documents are presented in a tiled format, as can be seen here. In the same web page, there are multiple frames, 4 frames available, and the different contents can be uh, uh, contained here, and that they can be independently viewed or scrolled. The proper usage, where to be used for context expected to change frequently, where they can change independently. To allow users to change partial screen content, this part can be changed with respect, not changing the other part. To permit users to compare pieces of information, so 2 sections can be made and they can be compared, as we have seen previously. Now guidelines pertaining to that: use only a few frames, only 3 or less is desired at a time. Choose their sizes based upon the type of information to be presented. If the information or the data is less in size, the size has to be less for that frame, and for information for the frame containing larger data, the size has to be more. Never use more than one scrolling region on a page. The last is pop-up windows. So we have to be extremely cautious in using them because they are the JavaScript prompts, and they are considered problematic because in old days they were taking more time to load, and that may cause a user to switch away, divert away from the page, which is not expected. So these are the references I have used for this presentation, and you can see the content pertaining to this discussion on those links. Thank you.